I loved my wife from the moment I laid eyes on her when I was a kid. You can know if something is true is that while something cherished has to go, the consequence is redemptive, transformative and redemptive, a resurrection of the Spirit eternally. That's the promise. Well, this is why Christ says that unless we become as little children, we'll in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. And I can see that happening to Tammy. And so it's great. It's great. It's ridiculously good.
What is stopping you from embracing the faith of your wife?
I don't know if anything is stopping me.
What's holding you back?
I don't think anything's holding me back. Everybody's got their own destiny.
Is it in yours?
Is it in mine?
Jordan Peterson, it's great to see you again. Thank you for sitting down to do this interview.
My pleasure.
We're sitting here in Toronto. It is the Easter weekend, which is the most important time for Christians all over the world. When we think of the crucifixion, the resurrection, Jesus taking what was the ancient symbol of torture and of death and turning it into a symbol of hope and of new life. What do you think of the Christian Easter message?
Oh, so you're going to start with an easy question, are you?
Simple.
Well, I'll speak psychologically about it. And speak in terms of its literary echoes, let's say. It's a variant of the dragon and treasure story, which is the oldest story we have. It's the core story of humanity in some fundamental sense, that in the darkest places, what's of most value can be found. And that story reaches its limit in the story of the crucifixion. Speaking strictly psychologically, I'm not going to delve into theological matters. So the crucifixion story is a limit story because it describes the encounter, a multidimensional encounter with the worst that life and death can throw at us, at humanity, at the sons of men. That would be a way of thinking about it. The most painful death imaginable, designed as a torture that was public, that made a particular kind of statement about not misbehaving, let's say. A most unjust death, because Jesus was regarded even by the people who killed him as innocent. In front of his mother, betrayed by his friends, abandoned by betrayed by his closest disciple, abandoned by his friends. It's a multi-dimensional tragedy, right? But that's not all of it, because in the broader context of the story, once the crucifixion takes place, Christ also harrows hell. And what the story means, one of the things it means, because it means many things, is that we're called upon, if we want to live the fullest possible life, to confront the limit case of life. And the limit case of life is unjust suffering and malevolence, the reality of malevolence. And then the promise in the story is that if that's undertaken wholeheartedly, the consequence is redemptive, transformative and redemptive, a resurrection of the Spirit eternally. That's the promise. To some degree, what people are doing, what Western people have done, and Christians in general, let's say, is to participate in a communal process of exposure. And the crucifix mediates that. And the idea that the cross is at the center of the community, right? So it's in the holiest place, which is in turn in a church, which is in turn the center of the community. The fundamental idea, there's twofold, you might say. One is that the community itself is based on the idea of sacrifice, which is the definition of community, because community is the sacrifice of the individual to the community. That's what it is. And that the highest form of sacrifice is the ultimate confrontation with life. And that's what the community is predicated on, and all of that's true. So
I know you're not coming at it from a theological point of view, but that, in essence, that idea of from the worst suffering, from the depths of despair, not only can you come out of that, but you can actually, new life can be born out of that, strength and hope. Fairy tale or reality?
Oh no, it's why or fairy tale and reality, right? There's no or there. So the deepest fairy tales are the most real, that's for sure. Yeah, we don't understand fiction. We don't understand what fiction means. Fiction is a form of distillation. And I suppose at times the fictional and the real unite. And that's the essence of the Christian claim, I would say. That's the right way of thinking about it. That's a way of thinking about it. There's many ways of thinking about complex things. And one of the things you'll have experienced if you've lived at all and you're the least bit wise is that one of the ways you can know if something is true is that, well, something cherished has to go. Some cherished presupposition, some way you're tyrannizing yourself or other people.
When have you experienced that in your life?
Oh, all the time. I'm a smart person. I'm very verbally agile, and the temptation of intelligent people is to worship their own intelligence, or even to worship intelligence. And a lot of the reason the world is so unstable right now is because of that. Well, that's the Luciferian temptation. And what I learned was that the Luciferian temptation for me was to use my intellect as a weapon to obtain status, a weapon or an agent of manipulation. That in some ways that's the same thing. A weapon, you more defeat someone. If you're using it as an agent of narcissism, you use your intellect to attract attention to you and your ideas. It's all about status. It's about you. It's about your whims even.
When we started this interview, we were talking about the Easter message and the powerful symbol of the cross. Jordan, when you look at the cross today, what does that symbol mean to you?
It's the point where everything comes together. That's what the cross means. It's the agony of life. That's what it is. It's the agony of life. And with God's grace, you might say, the triumph of life in the face of mortality, in the face of agony, in the face of malevolence. That's what it is. That's not a matter of... We're very confused about what faith is in the modern world. We think that faith is your assent, your verbal assent to a collection of descriptive statements. That's perhaps an element of faith, it's like the paint on a very thick wall. It's an element of faith, but the faith itself is, what would you say? It's the willingness to presume that being and becoming is good despite tragedy and malevolence. Right, so that's a high calling to be required to make that faith manifest. But from the psychological perspective, and again, speaking strictly psychologically, we know that voluntary confrontation with what disturbs and blocks you is the universal pathway forward. That's indisputable. And so the limit case of that, the crucifix is the limit case of that. Now, what does that mean metaphysically? No one can say that. No one has an answer to that, because no human being is capable of understanding even the significance of any moment, much less their entire life, much less the life of mankind. What role do we play in the cosmic order? No one knows that answer to that.
Is it futile to pursue it because it's just something we could never, even in our wildest dreams, comprehend?
No. It's the essence of all pursuits. Like Jacob's ladder, you're called upon to climb Jacob's ladder, right? And it spirals infinitely upward. Well, to where? Well, infinitely upward isn't a place, it's a direction, right? Heaven is a place that's perfect, that's getting better at the same time. Does it end? No. The abyss of hell is bottomless, right? The call of up is endless. And so anything that attracts here's a way of thinking about it. Anything that attracts your attention is a portal to the divine. And you'll pursue that thing that attracts your attention, that's your calling, and then it'll transmute, and you'll find yourself oriented in another direction. the spirit that remains constant through all the transformations of your calling, that's the divine. That's what the divine is. And it's ineffable because it can't be fully revealed. It's unlikely to be fully revealed in the course of your existence, but it calls you forward continually. That's what the burning bush is in the story of Moses. And it shows itself in different places for different people. What you're interested in, what calls you, isn't going to be exactly the same as what I'm interested in. There's some things that are more universal in their calling. Beauty is a universal calling, right? And what's behind it? These are definitions in some ways. What unites all things beautiful is the divine. That's a good way of thinking about it. Is it real? Well, it depends on what you mean by real. It's more real than beauty. Is beauty real? Well, it's a strange question, isn't it? Because beauty obviously has a subjective element.
Speaking of beauty, your beautiful wife, Tammy, when we last spoke, we talked about her incredible story and her terminal diagnosis, her recovery, miraculous recovery, many say. And many people are asking her today how she's feeling as she's confirmed and brought into the Catholic Church. How are you feeling about it?
Oh, it's been very good for her. So,
has it been good for you? You mentioned unity. Has it been good for your marriage, for the two of you as a couple?
No, it's been great.
Why do you say that?
So, I loved my wife from the moment I laid eyes on her when I was a kid. And if you love someone, it hurts you when you see them deviate from the thing that draws you to them. And since she's pursued her efforts at enlightening herself more thoroughly, and this investigation of Catholicism has been key to that, she's much more who she is. And that's great because I love who she is, and so the more of that, the better. And it's the same thing you want to see. If you have a child that you love, you want to see them become everything they could be, and that's a lot. If they become everything they could be, that's an endless unfolding. And so there isn't anything better than to see that in someone. Now, if you're bitter and resentful and jealous, envious, all of those things, then when you see that happen in someone else, you may punish it because the sight of it is, that's the story of Cain and Abel. The sight of it makes your own inadequacy unbearable, right? And if you love someone, you're willing to bear that. You're willing to let their light shine, even if it casts you in a dimmer, shade, let's say. But I love her, and so when I see her flowering, then that's great, and it's bottomlessly great. And that's really quite a miraculous thing to see. I mean, you see that, again, the example of little kids is a good one because most people, almost everyone, is still uncorrupted enough so that when they're with a small child, the best part of them appears. This is one of the magical things about having little kids is you see, when you take them out in public, you see even the harshest people show the best side of themselves. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and you want, if you have a son or a daughter and you want the best for them, your love is the practice of helping that flourish, right? And so, well, this is why Christ says that unless we become as little children, we'll in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. And I can see that happening to Tammy. And so it's great. It's great. It's ridiculously good.
But when you see how ridiculously good it is, what is stopping you from embracing the faith of your wife?
You mean all those pesky Catholics? I don't know if anything is stopping me.
What's holding you back?
I don't think anything's holding me back. everybody's got their own destiny. And so...
Is it in yours?
Is it in mine? I would say it's unlikely. But...
Why do you say unlikely?
I exist on the borders of things. So, why is that? I don't know, but that's how it is. So,
when we interviewed Tammy yesterday, and I asked her how was she feeling the day before being confirmed and brought into the church, she said, very good. I said, any doubts? And she said, no, it's not like marriage.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
After he said such nice things about you, Tammy. Jordan Peterson, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Good to talk to you.